Hi doulas, how are you today? Yay! Springtime here in Canada, it's beautiful. If you're watching this soon after recording. So I wanted to do something different. After that long series I did on epidurals, I wanted to do something that was a little bit more, maybe, well, a little bit shorter for starters, but also maybe a little bit more elusive. And what I came up with was client behaviors. So how to work with difficult personalities. And this is something as an agency owner that I deal with a lot because of course I am managing way more clients than one doula ever would manage normally. What I get to experience managing, teams of 30, 40 doulas is a lot of different personality challenges with our clients. And one of the things that I've realized over the years is, and I don't know that I started this way, but I certainly have become this way as a doula, is I feel a lot like a chameleon. Like I can match whatever personality I think my clients need me to have. Does that make sense? I don't know if you do that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on if you feel like you do that too. But sometimes I find myself being super hippie with my hippie clients, and sometimes I find myself being super professional with my professional clients that are maybe more medicalized or medical focused. And one of the things that I also notice myself too is speaking differently almost. So for example, if I'm speaking to someone who's very left brain, so remember our left brain is that logic side of our brain. And if someone's very left brain, then you know what they want? They want data, right? They want to hear statistics and research and evidence. But someone who is more right brain, then maybe with them we're going to focus more on how they feel through their pregnancy, birth, and parenting journey, early parenthood journey. How they're going to feel with our support and us doing different things to support them through their birth. So I do find myself sort of adapting my language in a lot of ways. I feel like because I've done it for so long that I don't even realize it. I also was making a joke recently with some friends of mine about my uncanny ability to be compassionate with other people. And I'm not saying that like, oh, look at me, I'm so compassionate, but I kind of have this almost natural ability to be compassionate for the most part. And I jokingly said, on my tombstone, I'd like it to read, she was a compassionate motherfucker, because that's kind of how I feel. And when it comes to compassion, there's a few things that really stand out for me in my mind, because when we're dealing with difficult people, one of the sayings I always remember is Penny Simkin and Phyllis Klaus, and they say, you won't always understand why a person behaves the way they do, but they have a darn good reason. And I feel like that deserves a full stop, doesn't it? If we could for a second assume that when we perceive someone's acting like an asshole, that they're not an asshole, and that something in their life, in their childhood, in their experience, in their life experience, in their personality, has led them to behave in a way that we perceive as being assholery. And there's two things happening there. There's the behavior that they're exhibiting, but there's also our perception of that behavior. And one of the things that you realize if you've lived any little bit of time with other people is you will have had an encounter with someone who takes something personally that you didn't mean that way at all. And so while they're sitting there saying, but you said this about me, and you're sitting there defending yourself saying, no, that's not what I was saying, that's not what I meant. If you've had that experience ever, then what you understand is that it is possible for someone to misinterpret a behavior or a statement or a way of acting. And if it's possible to misinterpret behavior, then isn't it possible that when we perceive someone's being an asshole or having asshole-ish behavior, you know what I mean, that maybe we're wrong? Maybe it's our perception that's off a little bit. So what if we just walked around all the time saying to ourselves, oh, I'm perceiving that that person's behavior seems whatever, unacceptable or challenging or difficult or whatever word you want to use for that. And then you add on that layer of, I wonder what led them to behave in that way. I wonder what might have happened in their experience to make them feel that way. And then what if we add on another layer that says we're going to respond with kindness, and we're going to respond with the love that truthfully our souls all deserve, don't they? And I think with clients, I find this particularly easy to do for a few reasons. Number one is our interactions are pretty short-lived, right? We're not with clients for very, very long. Number two, it is a freaking privilege to be part of someone's birthing and parenting journey. Full stop. Number three, I'm not going to be with them for all that long. So even if I don't love their behavior and it's not someone that I would want to be my friend, I can still be really compassionate and the doula chameleon for them in the time that we have together, right? And this is a super vulnerable moment in someone's life. I mean, they really need us to, to be able to respond that way. I always say, other than your reliability, I think the most important element of doula care is being able to offer non-judgmental support. Now, non-judgmental support doesn't mean you don't have biases, right? It just means that you have learned a way to respond to someone in a way that doesn't show them, right? And that allows that person to have their own belief systems and their own, decision-making and process without our influence. So the other thing too is, often the people that we support have partners and other support people. And I think it's really important that we bring that same level of compassion and chameleon nature to those people. Now, the interesting thing is always when you've got, one right brain and one left brain person. And I kind of love the challenge of that in a prenatal visit because I'm going to do both. I'm going to say the logic side of a topic, but then I'm also going to add in that right brain emotional, creative, whatever piece, artistic piece, depending on what we're talking about. And I think there are ways to do that. That's something that you can begin to practice with the people around you and trying to think about how you can match that person's language, if you will. To me, it's a language, right? So the other thing too is, sometimes people's behavior is going to be downright not nice. And of course you have to have boundaries. Of course you have to protect yourself. And at any time that someone's, personality or behavior is in a way that you perceive as being abusive, obviously that's not going to be a good client for you and you've got to sort that out. But that's not what we're talking about here because those situations are so far and few between. What we're talking about is when you interact with someone and you just don't think they're very nice people. And that could be a birthing person or it could be a partner. I know in our agency, we hear that a lot, on behalf of the partners, where a doula will call me and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this partner said this. And they're behaving that way. And they said this to the other new parent. And I always say to them, I'm like, listen, do you think that that's a shock or a surprise to that person? They've been with them for what? 5-10 years, whatever it is. Do you think that that's a surprise? Because it's probably not, right? It's a surprise to us. It's a surprise to us because of our own beliefs and what we would choose in a partner. And I think it's really important to distinguish those two things and separate yourself from what you see between a couple, or triad or quadrat or whoever you're working with, because that is not your partner. So their behavior doesn't have to be what you find acceptable in a partner. That's what the birthing person has chosen or the other co-parent has chosen. And so it's important that we respect that, and that's up to them to sort out their stuff, right? We're not counselors, but what we can absolutely do is just accept them for who they are and where they're at in life and all of those life experiences that have led them to that place. I hope that's helpful. I'd really love to hear if you do anything differently to help when work with difficult personalities. I know we could talk about this for days probably, but just kind of wanted to bring a few little pointers and some thoughts and see maybe practice on speaking the language of the people around you, left brain, right brain, and being that chameleon, and see how that feels for you. Hope that's helpful. Talk to you next time. Bye.